out Max. Try that. See how you look. Oh, you. Just shoot. Well, the whole bike?
Yeah.
Never mind. Right, we can. I can see that as well a little bit. You're right. It's sort of kilted. Sort of.
I'm not going to fall off.
No. Right. You'll adapt and adjust. Wants to be in the green. It'll go on. Yeah. It'll go. I don't know the distance. Let's have a look at yours. Good.
I was lucky enough to grow up in the countryside, and we used to have many, many hedgehogs in our garden, and I love hedgehogs so much. And they're Australian equivalents, actually, like echidnas and things like that. I love them. And now, where I live in Macclesfield, which is kind of, an old factory town. And my husband and I have rescued several hedgehogs, actually, since we've lived there. We find them in the streets, on the pavements, in the road, and that feels incredibly wrong, and they don't have the space to roam. And because of the many walls, the buildings, it's changed the landscape for them and the impact of that.
Like everyone, I remember insects on the windscreen that are no longer there. So the windscreens are very empty, which is weird. I was brought up in the 1970s in the self-sufficiency movement, and we led a self-sufficient life in the Brecon Beacons. And I've noticed there that the weather has changed. It's hotter, there are more storms, there are landslides, there's flooding, and a place that I used to see as a sort of Garden of Eden for me as a child is now a threatened place.
Well, I grew up on a farm in Australia, so I do have a fairly strong relationship to the natural world as it was, and very much like some of the other people in this piece, I've noticed a lot less bugs. But I guess the main thing is with the deforestation and the increasing heat in Australia, the droughts have become more severe and longer, and I see more animals in places they shouldn't be. When I was growing up, we didn't have any kangaroos visible anywhere near where I grew up, and now on my dad's small acreage, families of kangaroos are sort of hopping through what's essentially the backyard because they've got nowhere else to go. So, it's really cute, you see the kangaroos, but they really, really should not be there. It's not their natural habitat. It feels like a different place. Multiple days above 40 degrees, goes on for weeks sometimes. And it definitely wasn't like that when I was a kid, and that's only 35 years.
Changes in the natural world over my lifetime. Well, as my lifetime is 6 decades long now, God, can't believe it. I've seen quite a lot. I grew up in the country, but like South Coast in Sussex, and now I live in the town, but I've been going back to that house until 2 years ago when my mother died, so I can compare. I do know what it was like as a child in the 60s and 70s compared to now. And I mean, what comes to mind is absences, things that have gone missing. It's kind of like I blinked, I wasn't looking, and they've gone, and I didn't even notice till, I don't know, when did I start to notice what was gone?
I'm not a natural scientist, I'm not an environmentalist, I don't have any qualifications in that area at all. So if there is any environmental change, it would have to be dramatic. In the way I live, I haven't seen any change. I've been told there's change, I've read that there's change, I've been told by the media, by the natural scientists, by people who are qualified to talk about these things, and I believe them. I believe there's been change. I can understand the change, but I haven't seen any.
It was gone. So things like, you know, the insects. Where did all the insects go? I mean, even those ones that you were so irritated by as a child, like daddy longlegs that would come flapping into your room and you'd turn your lights out and their horrible legs would flap in your face, and I just absolutely hated it. And all the moths in the bathroom, I mean, the moths would come in, there'd be moths on the windows, moths in the bath. I don't like them either, and now I'd like give anything to see them like that again. But all the lovely, the ladybirds, I mean, we were always singing the ladybird song, ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. Your house is on fire and your children are gone. How?
And I remember very, very distinctly that it snowed one year when I was still in secondary school, and it snowed one year in April, which was odd because April was supposed to be spring, but you know, we had a snow day off school. We got let off school early, everyone went to the park and threw snowballs at each other, then we got freezing cold and went back to my friend's house and warmed up, and it was really exciting. This was, you know, the 1st of April in 2016, 2017, something like that, where it snowed in April. And then I remember very distinctly, exactly a year later, because I got a notification on my phone of the, you know, this day 1 year ago you were playing in the snow, and I remember exactly 1 year later, must have been 1st of April 2018, it hit 30 degrees. And that was the point when I realised.
I don't know if I've seen big changes in the natural world in my lifetime, or if that just as I've got older, I've become more aware of climate change and the effects that it has, and so I see it more wherever I go, just because I've read more things about it, and it's always kind of there in the back of your mind.
My city, which is home now to 22 million people, was known 100 years ago as a drizzling city. So it used to have this small rain almost every day and surely every night. And I remember as a child to have like my mother saying, you should go home because it's going to rain at night, so you should protect yourself from the cold and the wetness. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I don't see this kind of rain anymore for many years now. I just have this child memory about this, but I don't see it happening today.
And the butterflies, of course, have gone. And the other thing that I literally have not seen for decades, that I used to see regularly at the front of the house, there was a little bit of woodland nearby, is hedgehogs. Hedgehogs, running over hedgehogs, being sad about running over hedgehogs, the hedgehogs curling into balls, worrying about hedgehogs sneaking into bonfires that you were building for bonfire night. I can't remember the last time I saw a hedgehog, but it must be decades.
And actually, the past 5 years, I can't recall having a normal season in terms of you would expect of temperature and rain and drought, etc.
But then in lockdown it was really, really nice. I've never heard the dawn chorus like so loud in my lifetime. Like, it was just this cacophony of sound every morning. right at the beginning of lockdown when all of the traffic was pretty much stopped. It was just ear-splitting. It was, yeah, that was really special.
We had actually in 2015, I think, this major drought in São Paulo, which was very concerning. We almost ran out of water because it didn't rain enough for a long period for more than a year, maybe.
And I think now there's an awful lot of erraticism and obviously more precipitation, and I think I see increased adverse weather here, flooding, especially like that of winter 2015.
The other big things that have gone missing is just wildflowers. Meadows, just walking through a meadow. I can remember the last time I went through a meadow that was heaving with wildflowers, and it was in Shropshire in 1985.
Extreme weather at odd times of the year, more storms, especially living on by a coast. We're battered more often, I think, than maybe we once were.
Go on those walks and pick that stuff, even ones that seem more ordinary at the time, the cowslip and these names, cowslip and toadflax and meadowsweet and greater stitchwort or whatever. And
was born in 1996 in Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
And you could go out on a walk and pick some wildflowers for your jam jar. Wouldn't last long. But that's, I don't know, you'd be hard pressed to do that now.
That winter, there was 3 feet of snow from one of the worst blizzards in the state's history.
In my hometown, there used to be 2 very clear monsoon seasons. But now, the summer and winter monsoons in Southeast Asia are never quite accurate.
Since then, the snow comes later and later each year.
There's a lot more unpredictable torrent rain, and there's quite a lot of flooding these days, which is problematic for an island city-state like Singapore.
There are geese that usually migrate in the fall, around October, but when the weather stays warmer for longer, they get caught in a cold snap around December and I hear the flocks flying out while it snows.
I know that there are fewer wild birds now, and I definitely feel like I see a few of them less, particularly starlings. I used to see crowds of them, and sparrows too. Now I never see more than a few, and even birds rarely. Instead, I see the parakeets. I remember when they were knocking to now they are screeching and out of place.
When I was a child, there would be snow on the moors for weeks. We had to stay in as the snow drifts were higher than our waists. Even high up now, the longest the snow stays for is a few days.
I think the natural world is becoming less appreciated by some, in favour of an electrical world, a technological world, a social media but not actually social world. Climate change clearly reflects this.
Expansion of once small villages into places the size of towns, with nothing but commute-belt houses and a lack of parking. Building where there should be woods and fields is bad, but it's worse when it's poor quality and no consideration of infrastructure that destroys the countryside.
One thing that shocks me is the increasing frequency of weather extremes in the UK, and we'll probably never see a white Christmas again. One year we had a freezing transition from February to March. The next year it felt tropical. Relatively speaking,
it seems like the temperatures aren't quite where they should be, but maybe that's because I don't really remember paying attention to climate as a child.
The weather has changed. I noticed the trees changing at different times of year, and there's a few of these bundles.
I dug as a kid in my parents' garden. You could always find all those juicy, fat, wriggly worms. I can't remember the last time I saw a worm.
I noticed it the most when I visited a beach I used to go to as a child in Greece. The water had covered my favourite spot where I'd sunbathe and read my book.
On all sides there are things missing. Creatures large and small are in hurry. But these aren't busy. The birds and insects are silent, particularly the kingfishers, otters, trees, harvest-like moths. The climate in the UK has changed too. Generally warm,
Warmer than desert more heat waves in summer. Less small wildlife such as butterflies and birds.
the seasons are few and have shifted slightly. Summer start and function later.
bloodsuckers, conies and skylarks.
Where did all the frogs go?
I hadn't expected to write the text for a piece about climate change, so that's new. I guess at the same time, that is what I do, mostly if I feel something needs to be said or I want to impact on how people feel or think about things, I tend to try and make work about it. I don't know anymore whether I think that it actually makes a difference, but I hope it does, and maybe that's the main thing.
I was brought up in the 70s and early 80s, and I remember driving around thinking there's lots of cars. I wonder what it would be like when there's loads of cars around, and now that there are, I feel the air is thicker with pollution. I also notice extremes in temperature, so when it's hot, it's like epically hot, and there's parts of the world right now that are just literally, literally burning.
I find climate change and the future of the natural world particularly incredibly upsetting. And if I spend too much time thinking about it, I actually get quite upset. And it's one of the reasons why I can't imagine a world having children. Because the prospect of having a child and what that unknown future might be is too much for my feelings, as you can probably see.
I just cry. Fear. Slightly resigned to it. Hopeless. Panic. Sad.
Terrifying. Paralyzing.
Must not procreate.
A dimming and bottomless loss. Complete sadness that greed has ruined this world. Overwhelming
anxiety, 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 sadness, sadness,
I do not believe that making our country economically whilst watching major of the planet and great issues is a good idea.
It's almost like it's so big. A vast, global, existential threat. How do you feel that?
How Irreparable harm, massive loss of life. For my children's future. For my children's future.
Capable of avoiding catastrophic climate change. This is my considered view, arrived at through many years of working in the field of renewable energy.
I feel guilt.
Mostly I worry. I feel guilt.
And what kind of world they will inherit.
I feel guilt.
Rather helpless.
Helpless, inadequate. I feel naturally anxious. Sadness, 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 anger. Ridiculous egotship, 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 ridiculous egotship. It just, I get. It just, I get. It just, I get. It just, I get. Anxious, panicked, helpless. Anxious, panicked, helpless. Snow.
I think of how selfish, greedy, and lazy we all are, both citizens and politicians. Then I feel incredible guilt.
Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Guilt. Sick. Sky went black. I hate it. What are you doing? I hate it. What are you doing? I hate it. I hate what we are doing. I hate it. I hate what we are doing. I hate it. I hate what we are doing. Exhausting, suffocating panic. Plastic disposal shit. 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 Human civilization has been a holocaust for everything that is human. Civilization has been a holocaust. Human civilization has been a holocaust. Human civilization has been a holocaust.
You know, should I really have to sit here and consider, is it worth building a family when the human race,
is destined for extinction? And turn off the lights. I turn off the lights and go upstairs and turn off the lights. My mother said, turn off the lights, we're not made of money. Turn off the lights, I say to my children, think of the polar bears. Turn off the lights and switch our energy, companies switch our energy, eco-energy, flood the grid with clean energy and solar panels on the roof and solar panels on the neighbour's roof. Government subsidised solar panels and maybe a wind turbine, tiny wind turbine, not my backyard. And signed a petition and wrote to my councillor and wrote to my MP, austerity and no more austerity and no more government subsidised solar panels. Austerity can't afford the solar panels, but subsidies for fossil fuels and cost-effective, not cost-effective, cost-effective, not cost-effective. And nobody loves a wind turbine and went on a march and woke up in the morning and read the news. Celebrities a champion, threatened species, that will help. And read the news at 5 in the morning. Read the news at 4 in the morning, read the news at 3 in the morning, and 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning. Little phone blown mind chip and motherboard. Mined at high cost. Modern slavery. And blast the earth open. There's an app for that for your carbon footprint calculation on your high energy consumption cost phone. And an app to help you breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. And I turn off the lights. Little light from my phone. Every text, a data center. Every text, a data center. Every coach, every call, replace a phone. Every 2 years. There's an app for that. And went on a march and read the news. And 30 football field size of 30 football fields. And deep sea mining and moon mining. Privatize the moon. And how is that a good idea? Even the moon isn't safe. The moon isn't safe from private interests. Je suis mourant. And went on a march with the school. Children went on a march with the school signs. They are so brave, aren't we? Proud of our children. We all have so much to learn from the little children with their little signs. and everybody loves a wind turbine now, and read the news and signed another petition, and everybody loves a petition, and wrote to my MP and bought a keep cup and took a flight and drove a car and bought another keep cup. I didn't like the first keep cup. And use eco-cleaning products and consumer choice. The market will respond. Have faith in the market and consumer choice and synthetic materials. Put plastic in the ocean. So bought organic cotton, but cotton uses too much water. 3 billion affected by water shortage. So just went to work naked. Not really. And turn off the lights and wrote a song about climate change that will help. And emissions still rising, and emissions still rising, still rising. I'm afraid, but I bought an electric car and 30 football fields of rainforest every minute. I bought an electric car, saved up 3 years, took 5 hours to visit my parents because there weren't enough charging points. And my brother said, "Not so smart now, are you?" and laughed. I said, "The infrastructure isn't there." Where is the infrastructure? The infrastructure. And reducing plastic, reducing daily plastic consumption. Wrote to my supermarket of choice. That is consumer power, that is consumer choice, that is empowerment. They reduce the plastic packaging on their own brand cheddar cheese. That is consumer power. Oh, power to the consumer. Became a vegetarian, except for fish. Became a vegan, except for own brand cheddar cheese. And non-recyclable waste bin in a single jam jar that month. Posted a photo of waste in a jam jar that month. And posted an article, and posted a petition, and posted an article, and posted an article, and every post is a data center. 14% of carbon footprint by 2040, and went on a march and wrote to my MP and bought my partner a keep cup. I'm so afraid. And my partner gave me a lunchbox made out of recycled materials for my birthday. I'm so afraid. And I thought maybe if I just buy everything, there is to buy, there'll be nothing left, and I'll have a very nice bicycle made out of recycled materials. And my brother said, "You do go on," and my father said, "You do go on." I'm so tired, I'm so fraggy. We are all very pleased that the multinational energy company is investing in this country by fracking the fuck out of it, said the Minister for Energy and Business. And also, we are going to plant some trees. And 2,000 jobs. And 1% of people cause half of global aviation's emissions. And does that mean me? Oh God, I think that means me. My father said, "When I was your age, we couldn't afford to fly. I'm not going to stop now." Just look at the whales. Just look at the whales. 280 gigatons of Greenland ice. Everybody loves a whale. 150 gigatons of Antarctic ice. Maybe I'll adopt a whale. Maybe I'll adopt a tree. Maybe I'll adopt a child. Have another child. Can't have another child. One other child. Will no one think of their children? This government commits to planting 30,000 hectares of trees a year by 2025. Can't argue with that. Everybody loves trees. Lovely trees. All the children planting trees. Buy a flat and plant a tree. Buy an airplane, plant a tree. Buy an airspace, plant a tree. And mine the moon and plant a tree. My father said, "You do go on." My father said, "You do go on." My father said, "And no more hedgehog." No more hedgehog, 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 no more hedgehog. My father said,
"You won't remember this. Driving on the motorway, how the insects would smash themselves to smears on the windscreen. So many of them, so many."
I felt it really strongly over the last year, I think, when you see the amount of plastic that, you know, was very necessary through all the PPE, but all that plastic is going into landfills. I think we just got into a position where we were encouraging people to use, you know, keep cups rather than single-use things, and now we seem to have taken a step back into everything's single-use, and so I think we all should really make an effort over the next year or so to get back to where we were.
We are all ultimately stewards here on planet Earth, and we have an obligation to do all we can to have as light a footprint on the planet as we possibly can, and to do things that don't unnecessarily damage it. So climate change, I think the interesting thing about the piece tonight was the emotional toll that climate change makes on people. And I think that's true, because we should be one with this planet, and we should do everything we can to take care of it.
Down here, it is so still and cold. Down here in the country of bleached corals, here in the country of silt. The shorelines and the children's footprints in the sand, and all the houses slide into the sea. Houses slide into the sea. All the little houses slide into the sea.
I am trying to make lots of work about climate change with lovely colleagues like Cordelia and Laura, because I think that's the best and only action that I know, and because I don't want to be an old lady. And when I'm an old lady, my daughter comes to me and says to me, "Mum, did you know?" And I say, "Yes." And then my daughter said, "Why didn't you do anything?" And then would be an awful moment. So I am taking action for my child.
Mostly now I feel extremely tired, and I feel much older than I am. I'm only 32, and I already feel like my generation, as a generation, we failed to do what we should have done. And I feel very guilty about the younger generation, and I already feel like I'm looking down at them going, they're the ones who are going to save the world, because I don't know what we were doing, but it wasn't enough. And that's a very strange feeling to already have when you're so young.
A lot of my work comes from international companies and ensembles. And obviously when it's in Europe, it's much easier. When it's on an island off Sweden, it's less easy. And when it's in Canada, it's very difficult. And at the moment, I have that kind of balance in my life of, do I say no to the work on those aspects of myself? Do I say, I'm sorry, I can't fly to Canada, I can't perform that piece, I can't work with that ensemble? Or do I put my practice first at this point in my career? And I don't have any answers for this yet. I feel differently about it each time the question comes up, but it's something that is ever present, and it kind of creates that enormous amount of guilt in me whenever I kind of step on a plane. But I do try everything else that I can to make my impact on our incredible natural world far less significant, and to try and make any impact that I have be positive. Try to change. Pretty pessimistic. Really big, this big movement. Drive less, fly less, burn less, eat less, buy less. World feels a happier place when the planes aren't flying. Obligation, change, fast fashion. But it's not enough. I know it's not. Try to consume less. Wasteful, expensive. Wish I could afford to stop. says, "Every day I try to throw another deck chair off the Titanic.